my gosh, do we have Jake Marko on the podcast? Is that what's happening right now?
I think that is what's happening.
Oh,
I pressed a link, I ended up here, and here we go, I guess.
you guys, I'm I'm really sad to say, but in order to get Jake on this podcast, we actually had to lower the tone of his voice because it was too high before. And so you're hearing it now. You know, it's low enough now, but before it just wasn't low enough. So Jake, thanks for,
Yeah.
working with us on that.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. I'm flexible. Anytime we have a plan, we always need to be ready to adapt. You know, that's
Exactly.
that's really how we lead ourselves to joy.
That's right. That's right. So Jake and we just spent the weekend together in a class called Self-Leadership. It's taught by this amazing man named Eric Thompson, who we know him as Ambassador Eric. And Jake, how did this whole podcast interview come to be? Why was self-leadership the catalyst for this happening right now?
Yeah. I mean, that was such an amazing class. I think I joined the class because I was sort of in a place of like, what is my next step in my purpose? With career, with, where I'm gonna live, with just like generally like what I'm gonna do to help serve other people. And I'm so grateful for that class, for Ambassador Eric, on really focusing us on like that mission. Like what are you here to do? And a huge piece of this was I've really felt this calling to like share my voice. I've been interested in doing podcasts for like years. I honestly, I can think back when I was even like maybe 12, 13. I really wanted to start a YouTube channel. It never really happened. Like I made it, but I never posted anything. And it was time. So basically one of the action steps I wanted to take was get started on podcasts that already exist. Start an Instagram, which I already did. I've been posting twice daily on there. So thank you so much for having me on here. I'm like so excited. This really only manifested in a couple days.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, Jake, it's an honor to have you on here, and I'm really excited for your journey, what's moving ahead, and it's a really fascinating moment in your journey with your purpose, as you mentioned, and your healing journey, your growth, and being in a place where you are loving yourself at a new level, which is incredible. It's almost like self-leadership is another connection point to loving yourself. It's like you can't lead others unless you're able to lead yourself. You're not able to truly love others deeply unless you're able to love yourself deeply. And so, Jake, I would love to hear a little bit background of kind of your journey. What got you here to this point?
So it all started in the year 1999. I was born in Englewood, New Jersey. Uh, so I think my spiritual journey can really best be sort of dove into with the story. So you got to start somewhere. I think the best place to start with this is December 22. So we're in the middle of COVID, sort of locked up. I'm in college, my senior year, and I was riding this skateboard. And it's in this fraternity house that had, big open common room with a ramp going down to this, nice hardwood floor. So I was just riding my skateboard down, bobbing and weaving, and I hit this couch and flew off. Caught myself right on my feet, but sort of just felt a little like jerk. Something changed. Didn't think about it. Went on with my day, my week, and suddenly, about a week later, I woke up and I couldn't stand up. Like my back was just like so locked up. Um, and that started a journey. I'd never been in such like a sort of debilitating place where like it hurt to sit, it hurt to stand, it hurt to like drive. I was like sort of isolated from like going to visit my family. And it started me on this. really necessary self-healing, self-loving journey. At that point, I had like started doing yoga pretty much every morning. I had my friend who's an acupuncture student come and work on me a couple times. And over the years, because this ended up lasting, this was a chronic issue, and it took me about 2 years. At this point, I had moved to Boston, was pursuing graduate school, and I met this chiropractor because I had tried everything, and I was still like, even though I was trying my best to take care of myself, I tried everything. Um, Nothing was really fixing the problem. And I met this chiropractor. Uh, some people know him as Dr. Nick Penzarella. Um, and in this moment of like having so much physical pain, we say like all spiritual journeys start with the physical. And it led me to seeing that all the ways that I wasn't loving myself outside of the physical, right? Like, was I really living something that I was very in my purpose with? Um, so Dr. Nick caught me in like the most stressed day. I like walked in just like completely sullen. Pretty sure I brought the energy of the whole practice down. And he, at this point, I wasn't even his patient, but I just kept going to him because I felt this presence, this light. It's like love that he had, even though like I'd really like just met him a month earlier. And he recommended to me, maybe you need to get to know yourself a little bit. And at the time, I was like, screw this guy. What does he know? I know myself. I know Jake. But I took him up on it, and I went to this meditation with his wife, Catmore, and I remember walking in to the office, just in so much pain that day, and I saw her like bright, smiling face as she welcomed me in and had me sit down and try every single chair. And finally, we ended up with me just like lying down, sprawled out on on a couch, my feet up on the air conditioner, and I went into this meditation. She was running a max meditation. It's a type of meditation offered in the mystery school, and it was like my pain like dissolved away for like 20 minutes. I was like, geez, so this is like, what is this? And we came back, like, thinking on the topic of self-love. At the time, I didn't really even realize like this sort of way of loving myself mentally when I was so stressed led to physical healing, physical relief. Uh, and that's when she told me about something that's more permanent, the life activation. She sort of said to me, like, we can do this thing. I can't promise you it's going to make your pain go away, but it might change how you relate to it. And I think that might be a good place to sort of take a break on that story, but that opened up so many doors. I can't even that could lead me on a tangent for 4 hours, really on what happens after that. But I can say that everything changed after that.
hmm hmm Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can only imagine what it felt like having one a meditation experience that had that much of a profound effect, and having these people that seemingly hold a certain type of light and energy that kind of you kind of magnetize towards, that you felt like there's something here for me if I continue on, and then having an offer of something to do next.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so like I'm so grateful that she decided to mention that to me. Um, like
Jake, I
it's
think the
so
people
easy.
want to know. I think they want to know what happens after that. I think they're at the
They
edge of
want to
their seat.
know. Yeah. So I did the life activation the next day. And in the moment, I just felt this like rush of me flowing in. It was, I remember going home back to my apartment, walking up to the third floor where my friends Jen and Will lived to go hang out with them because they knew I was doing this thing. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing this weird energy healing. I'll tell you about it when I get back. And I walked upstairs and remember hanging out with them and like the way I was talking, the way I was laughing, the way I was smiling, it all just felt like more genuinely me. Like I felt more comfortable just in my body, in my being than I really ever had. Uh, and that was a great feeling. And it did end up sustaining for a little bit. Meditation helped to sort of sustain that. And then it sort of waned off. I can't say if, if it, went away, the feeling, or if it was something I just got used to. But in some ways, we say you can't always really even trust your feelings about these sessions. And what you can really trust is the effects. Like, what are the fruits, right? We talk about that a lot in the school, judging things by their fruits. And it was only, months after, maybe even a year after, when I looked back on it and saw what changed in the month afterwards. How did I start acting differently? One piece of the story I even forgot to mention was at that point in my healing journey, I had gone on medical leave. I had to stop working. I was pursuing a PhD, which was I was only a year into it, and I was like that was a really difficult decision of, can I continue doing this? This is what I thought I was going to do for years. Um, and having to basically choose to step away, give up any source of income to support me. And I pretty much spent every day like lying in bed, listening to Game of Thrones on audiobook, uh, trying to wait and see when I would get better. And in retrospect, it was only after the life activation that I decided, let's see how I'll make myself better. I remember there was this one moment when I was lying down in bed. I live in Somerville, Massachusetts, which has lots of wonderful arts events throughout the summer. And one of the first days where I was like really just lying down doing nothing, I started hearing music outside. It's like rock. And I'm like, what's going on? Why is there like rock music just hanging out outside? Who's having a concert? Like right on my residential street. And it was this event called Porch Fest, where there are bands around the whole city just playing out in different like outside their houses, and you walk around and listen to them. If you don't like one band, you walk down, to the next block and there's another band playing. It's like this is awesome, and I can't go. I need to stay inside because I'm in, at that point I saw myself as broken and I felt
No,
broken.
no, Jake.
Um yeah. But fast forward to after the life activation, there was another event going on. It was this street event. It's like Take Back the Street or something like that, where they closed down this major street in Somerville, and it was all the way on the other side, like a couple miles away. And I decided, despite having spent months just like lying in bed, only walking a few laps around my house and like feeling in pain from that, I decided I'm gonna walk all the way across this long, skinny city of Somerville to get to the other side and enjoy this street festival. And I did lots of exercises. I walked over, I took lots of stops. I stopped at my friend's house. I got to her house, I was in so much pain. So I got up and I started doing some exercises. And I went on the stairs and dipped my leg down and raised it back up and dipped my leg down and raised it back up and did that until I felt just good enough to keep going. And man, so let me tell you that day hurt, but that was like my first step towards taking back my control over the situation I was in.
epic.
Yeah.
Dang, that's beautiful. That's beautiful that you actually felt like the calling within yourself to take control of your life more and understand that you have those abilities within yourself and that you're not going to just wait and stand by any longer, that you're going to actually engage with what's going on. Hey, Jake, but the people are still at the edge of their seat. I'm thinking they just want more.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, see, it's just amazing because there's when we, I mean, as you know, yourself as a guide in the mystery school. I'm not even sure if the guests know exactly what that means, but it means you've been on the path for quite some time. You've learned quite a lot and experienced quite a lot. You know that like what we sort of do as humans is very multidimensional. And especially on the path when you have tools to support you, like activations, initiations, healings, you can become even more multidimensional. So when I think about how to tell my story, it's there's just so much. I mean, anyone's story, right? But what I can say is taking back that control of my life, it bled into so many different aspects. Um, I actually had to I had some people in my sort of care team for my back health that I had to basically fire because I didn't feel like they were supporting me. I didn't feel like the love and care. And I for so long I had been just putting up with it. But I decided no, actually I need the people that I feel supported by to take care of me because that's the only way I'm going to heal. Like you respond to those energies. So I changed up my team. Anyone that wasn't serving me was gone, and I had to find someone new. I ended up also realizing that my career path that I was on wasn't serving me. It wasn't bringing me joy. And what was amazing was I didn't have to do a pros cons list. It was that deeper connection to intuition where it was when I even imagined going back to what I was doing before, it was deep, visceral, like I don't want to be there. It was just such a gross feeling. And when I thought about doing literally anything else with my life, all I felt was bliss. So it led me to a path of really stepping away from what I was doing without any idea of what would be next. But knowing what would be next would bring me closer to that joy, that purpose. Uh, and along that path, it's funny. I'm just like thinking of like what to even talk about and what to leave for another story time.
For sure. Well, I think maybe the people at home, they've gotten a good sense of kind of where you started, like kind of the inklings and where you started to go. Maybe share a little bit of where you're at now.
Yeah, absolutely. A little fast forward about, let's see, this was essentially 2 years ago. So 2 years later, um,
Fast. Can
yeah,
happen
I mean
so fast.
my life activation was June 11th, 2022. Um, and then I decided to follow more tools, activations, initiations in the mystery school because clearly there was something to this. And coming from this scientific background, I was working in biomedical engineering, doing research there to I'm gonna do some energy healing and some, ancient initiations and learn how to wield these magical tools. And it didn't make sense, but it made sense.
Oh my gosh. For those at home
You know,
that didn't see that, he just pointed, it didn't make sense in his mind. It made sense in his heart.
yes, I mean something, if it works, it works. And I saw it working. So at this point in my path, I've gone to Empower Thyself, which is that first initiation. I went to Healer's Academy, which is the second initiation where I learned actually how to do life activations for other people, which, oh my gosh, such a blessing to be able to do that and see other people come into their power. Just so amazing. And then just recently, um, just about a month ago, a little bit over a month ago, I went through my third initiation on the Ritual Master Path, which frankly, I can't even tell you what that is at this point. I'm still learning, and I'm sure you're still learning, you know, years down the line. Uh, and where I'm at is funny enough, 2 years later, though I found myself, in a really wonderful career path, in the interim, sort of working both supporting the chiropractor that helped me so much, Dr. Nick, helping him with his business, working on the administrative side. And also, funny enough, despite leaving my PhD program, I was actually able to go back and teach some classes there.
Whoa.
At So I taught a like some college level courses, which is what I wanted to do. That's why I went for my PhD to become a professor. Um, it sort of had broken the box of actually I can do this thing right now.
I love
So
that.
I put down the pieces in academia that weren't serving me, which was a lot of the research that was, physically taking a toll, but also like mentally, spiritually wasn't bringing me joy. And I was able to step into just the parts that I really liked, which was the teaching, the connecting with people, helping them to step into their purpose. I even created my own class from scratch, which was such an amazing experience.
Awesome.
Um, and then where I'm at now is I have sort of put down that piece of my journey for now. Um, the teaching in academia, at least, for right now. And I am likely at some point in the near future going to put down the administrative work with Dr. Nick. It's been so amazing, but finding that there is definitely a next piece to that purpose.
Totally.
And I don't fully know what that is yet, but I can say having this, be my second time sort of changing directions in the last 2 years and having all these tools now to really support me in it. I'm not scared.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Jake, I mean, it's really beautiful to see that even when you partake and decide to kind of like jump on this path, kind of jump on this wild ride that is the path of know thyself, that even in that experience, when there's a stepping away from an old life, in a sense, like, or say old dreams or old ways in which we thought we were, these things that we thought that was us, realizing more and more about ourselves, that there is still the opportunity to go back to reintegrate into these old ways of being, but from a more aligned place, and still kind of accomplish some of these dreams and goals that have
Yeah,
that were there.
absolutely. I mean, it's like the hero's journey, right? You go out you have the uncomfortable challenge, you overcome it, you return back to the same place but changed.
So, right, right. And so in that experience, would you, if you could quantify how much you kind of like actually knew how to love yourself before, and now where you are today, what would you say is the percentage? 0 to
Oh,
100%.
you're
What do you
asking
think?
a perfectionist a tough question here. Let's see. It's funny because we say in the school, like, you know what you know. Sometimes you know what you know what you don't know, but then you also don't know what you don't know. And in many ways, I feel like that even makes it hard to sort of get there. Like, if you had asked me before I did really any of this work, I would have said, I can love myself a solid like 50, 60%, 70% maybe, which I feel like, pretty good, pretty solid capacity. I was doing lots of work. I was in therapy for a couple of years. I was working on that piece of caring for my emotions, caring for myself. But after, using some of these tools, learning what it really, just essentially more of the essence of love, I can look back and say my capacity to love myself right now, maybe more like 20%. But before, it was probably something like 3, 4, 5. Right? The perspective of what's even possible changes.
Love that. Wow. Thanks. Thanks for that assessment and that perspective. Because I mean, I know for sure for me when I was in the Empower Thyself class, and one of the teachings was kind of handed down, and I thought to myself at that time, going into the class, and in general, my kind of modus operandi was what are the tools that will help me love myself as much as possible? And then what are the ways in which I can then share that with others? And there was a teaching handed down where it allowed me to have a new goal of how deeply to love myself that was not possible before. That I could have said before, I want to love myself as deeply as possible. I know that there is no bottomless pit to how deep I can love myself, but I didn't even it was like the pit that I saw was a this type of pit, but then I was introduced to a this type of pit that
Yep.
I like even had a flashlight that could see further than the pit that was there before. And so it was game on at that point. It was game on. And so I love what you're saying about, yeah, maybe before you thought it was 50%, but really it was 3 or 4. And now it's at 20. But you're actually building of loving yourself from a true foundational place.
Yeah.
It's actually
Yeah.
based in reality.
Yeah. I can't wait to find out that right now I really, only have the capacity to love myself 1%.
Yes.
Looking back in 10 years, be like, that
Right?
that fool, he thought he knew what love was?
Right.
No.
Right. Oh my gosh, incredible. Thank you for that. So with our final piece here today, Jake, is what is some what is the final thing that your soul wants to share and share through your voice?
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing I can share to anyone listening is that you are worth so much more than you realize. And when you don't feel that way, know that someone else has also felt that. And let yourself be open to finding that hand that can say, hello, nice to meet you. I love you and I can help you. I'm so glad that, I met Nick and Kat who sort of extended that and was able to find all of, the wonderful people in the school. And, I wish I could, list all like, 50 people or more that have influenced me in that time. But even more tangibly, I could say if you feel if anything that I said or you, Seth, said resonated, go get a life activation. It will help you. And in many ways, more than you ever imagined it could.
Beautiful. Jake, thank you so much for being on the Love Band podcast and for sharing your voice, stepping up as a leader in your own life and for those around you, following through on what you said you were going to do, and taking steps further to create peace on earth.
Thank you so much for having me, Seth. This has been so wonderful. And oh, I just, yes.
I was just about to say, and how can people follow you and all that good stuff?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram, Jake Marko Healing, it's JAKEMARK, healing. Um, and you can find my website, it's just jakemarko.com. And yeah, check that all out. Maybe one day I'll make a TikTok, but I'm not there yet.
Getting there one step at a time. One step at a time. And
Once,
what was the final thing it looks like you're about to say something too.
oh, I couldn't tell you, but if you've already gotten life activated, go do Empower Thyself.
Boom. Yes. Life activation, empower thyself. Dang. That's a
Yeah,
1-2 for changing one's life and
absolutely.
creating
If
the
you're in the
greatest potential.
Colorado area, reach out to Seth because he
Oh,
is a guide who can help you with that. We didn't talk about what that means. It's a great way to find out is chat with your local guide.
that's right. And you can do that on modernmysteryschoolint.com. Okay, this is it. Jake, thank you so much. I
Yeah,
love
thank
you,
you, Seth.
man.
This was great. Love you too.